Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of Joe's RodShop podcast. I'm your host, Joe Basseille. So before we get started, remember, click that like and subscribe button. It doesn't matter what platform you're watching this on, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Deezer, whatever you do, there's always a like and a subscribe button. So click that, and you actually get a notification when we put one of these things out. This week's episode is brought to you by SA Hot Rods Media. Now, SA Hot Rods Media was part of SA Hot Rods Magazine, and as you guys know, we are now pushing everything onto social media. Now, if you have a car that you've just finished and you want to get it out to the masses, or you've got a company that you need some help with social media, getting posts, you're just not getting the reach that you want, or you're doing posts and you're just not getting any feedback on it, go to sahotrods.com or go to our Facebook page on SA Hot Rods Media and send us a message and talk to us. We are always happy to help. It's not that expensive, and trust me, the results really do speak for themselves. Now, as you guys know, we're also busy with season 5 of the RodShop TV show, which we start shooting in November. Now, guys, there is a few small spaces open. If you're in the motoring industry, if you've got a shop, or you've got motoring products, or you've got a motoring brand that you want to get out to the masses, and we are really saying to the masses, get hold of us. Go to sahotrods.com or go to the RodShop TV Facebook page, or even to SA Hot Rods Media, and make contact with us. And yeah, we'll get back to you. And like I said, let's help and get your guys' numbers pumping up like it's supposed to be. Now, in today's show, we are talking to Steph and Sully from Vintage Motors. Now, this is a company I've been looking at for the last few years, and they've actually been doing some really great things. And it's the first time we actually having a conversation where we can see each other. Now, we start touching on a whole bunch of stuff, from talking about their company to the impact of car imports, not exports, car imports in South Africa, which is actually a very big problem for all of us. So this is a great show, and I'm hoping this is going to lead to a bunch of new stuff as well. So sit back and enjoy. Right, and we are live with the boys from Vintage Motors. Guys, thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Joe.
Now, before we get started, just quick do introduction. You two, who are you and what do you guys do?
Go ahead, Susan.
So we're from a company called Vintage Motors. We do a whole lot of service pertaining to the classic car industry, from actual vehicle sales to purchasing for clients to facilitating collections, managing collections, and shipping.
Oh, wow. All right. And you are?
I'm Sully. So Stefan and I obviously are doing this together. We've been partners for what, 3 years now?
Feels like an eternity.
It does. But we've been partners for about 3 years now. I started this business about 4 or 5 years ago, doing inspections for clients, overseas clients, and so on. Mm-hmm. And we kind of started the business a little bit out of sort of desperancy because we needed income. And it's just kind of grown since then. And I bought Stefan about 3 years ago just to sort of do sales, and he's just been absolutely rocking it. And slowly but surely, we've just been kind of adding sort of services to our sort of name, and we've just kind of been growing steadily. Yeah.
No, because I've been watching you guys from day one. And like you said, it was more, you guys have just progressed and expanded on the marketplace as much as you guys could. Is it because...
Yeah, I think
No, keep going.
I think the biggest thing is, in any industry, I think it's the same. You grow with what is in the industry and how big the industry allows you to grow. The kind of like the goldfish syndrome. The bigger the tank, the bigger the fish grows. And that's exactly what we've done. We're in a massive industry, and it's allowed us to grow so much from just not doing sales, but to, a whole different array of services.
Yeah, and I think the key has been just kind of focus. Steph focuses on the sales, and I focus on the growth and development of the business. And I think that just having that little differentiation between the two allows us to focus each on our own part of the business, but all while remaining still connected.
For sure.
And we kind of just feed off ideas of each other, and it's just been, really amazing. I think we're on the same wavelength, and I think that's kind of really brought the business forward. And I think also one of the big key points is just focusing on service delivery. Quality of service is just something that's just unfortunately null and void. You don't see anymore. And I think that's something that's really made a difference in our business.
Look, the one thing we all know in the car industry, your reputation is everything, you know, and bad news spreads like wildfire. You know, good news doesn't spread at all. It takes some time. But a lot of the stuff that you guys do is like a progression. I mean, like you said, you do the car sales and then you look at the transport and you get more clients inquiring about that. And then you go, okay, well, actually there's something that's in there, you know, that's something we need to look at. Then it becomes an add-on.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, you know, as soon as you get to selling the car, I think step one is obviously finding the car, and then step two is marketing the car. So we've grown our marketing department quite big. And then, you know, a client buys a car, and then the next thing is transport, and then his insurance evaluation. And, you know, then you got a guy that wants to buy a car from Australia or the UK, and then you've got shipping that you can add on. So, you know, the industry allows you to grow.
Exactly.
And I think it's taking it step by step. You know, there's step 1, step 2, step 3. So you don't want to jump too big. You'd rather kind of go with the demand that's present. So you take that demand and you kind of focus on it, let something grow a little bit bigger. And then from there, then you can move to the step 2 and then allow for a new income stream and then continue further from there.
But I mean, now, over the last 3 years, I mean, the last 2 years has just been a cluster more than anything else. There's COVID and all that. And from the guys we've spoken to, obviously there's been a massive shift in the classic car market. How did you guys find that?
I think COVID was one of, you know, I know it's a very bad thing out there. A lot of people have taken a lot of strain, but it's been one of the things that has made us grow the most, because when we're quiet, we get to build and, you know, strengthen our bases. And it's allowed us to look at different income streams. And that is one of the biggest reasons why the business keeps on growing, is because we had a lot of downtime with, you know, cars not buying cars. So we had to focus the business on where can we still actually make money from. And what happens when a guy doesn't buy a car? He's going to work on it, and we don't do work to cars. So that wouldn't work, but we can offer him insurance, you know, or if he needs to buy a project car, we'd be able to help him out to get parts if we had to go that far.
Yeah, I think that, you know, in any bad situation, there's always an opportunity. And I think it depends on your mindsets and your attitude towards things. You know, we looked at this we could have looked at it from a negative perspective, and we decided not to. And instead, it actually motivated us to push in other avenues that we probably wouldn't have pushed on maybe as quickly. But that kind of pushed us in that direction that allowed us to create more income streams. So when the good times come back, we are set up, we are ready for those good times, just planning ahead.
Now, I've had guys over the last few weeks that said that the market is flooded with cars. There is enormous amount of cars coming out at the moment. They said, but the buying power just isn't as strong. But I feel there's two sides to that as well, because it's not that the market's not that strong. Guys are more careful now when they spend their money.
Yeah, I think that people are watching their purse a little bit better. What we found is that there's a lot of guys that have a disposable income, and they're rather using it as that disposable income. They're using it as an alternative investment sort of opportunity. So they'll maybe buy a car to try and resell. And obviously, we know that the sales are a little bit quiet at the moment, or have been a little bit quiet. But that opportunity in their minds, they've got an asset attached to it, you know, that's got a set value, and that value will grow. So versus money in the bank, they'd rather take that money and actually invest into something that can give them a return. Unfortunately, you know, some guys have taken maybe too much disposable income, and that's put them in a bit of a difficult place. But I think overall, the guys have been quite smart about it, and they've kept enough aside for cash flow, and then this diverse sort of investment opportunity. Yeah.
I think the other thing that's also quite important is, and we all have seen this. I mean, if a 59 Impala pops up tomorrow for 50 grand, you know, you're going to have a billion guys want to buy it. So I think, you know, pricing is one of the most important things, and then the quality of the vehicle comes into play. You know, guys are still out there buying million rand cars. it's just about landing on the right guy with the right car with the right price.
But look, the market between South Africa and the US is getting more competitive, as well as local guys starts pushing up their prices, because they're looking on eBay and they see on average what something will go for. And we're not even talking about the guy that thinks his car is worth 3 times more than what it is. We say just baseline. The cost of classic cars and stuff are going up, and we are busy aligning us. And the days of finding like an Impala quick for dirt cheap is not there anymore, because guys kind of know in the market now what the cars are worth, you know.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that it's been a little bit frustrating, and we've tried to also educate people a little bit more, is that, you know, when it comes to the overseas market, a lot of guys look at their vehicle and say, well, there's one in the UK selling for X amount, but they also don't realize that the quality of restoration is completely and utterly different. Guys will spend 200,000 or 300,000 rand on just a spray job, for example, overseas. You know, they're using renowned people where a restoration might cost you R1 million, hypothetically, where here it might only cost you 300. And obviously you'll see a quality difference. And those vehicles might be selling overseas for 2.5 million. I'm just using hypothetical figures. And then over here, the guys say, oh, well, my car's worth 2.5 million. And then they want 2.5 million. But then there's also something else to the whole mix, is that person overseas, he's never seen the car. So he's got to pay somebody that he doesn't know for a car that he's never seen. And at the end, he might as well just go buy one locally if it's going to be the same price when you start adding all the costs. So there's got to be a financial gain for that person to buy a car from South Africa. So very often than not, it ends up being too expensive, and then the guys don't do it. I mean, if you think about it, the guy also still wants to be worth his while to spend that time sourcing one, waiting 3 months for it to arrive, and not knowing the condition of the car. It's got to be financially worth as well. So that 2.5 million rand car is to sell for like 1.5, 1.4, if that makes sense.
But the risk is huge, because I mean, like, you've got 3 months. A lot can happen in 3 months. I mean, the car can get damaged in the containers. There's so many elements that then jump into it all at the same time.
I think this is one of the biggest things, is where we've grown again, is we've opened a branch in the UK now. And now a guy can actually go to our UK branch, chat to the guys there. We've already exported a couple of vehicles to the UK branch. So a guy can actually go and see more or less what's the quality of cars. And what we also offer them is then an inspection service. So the guy won't be just buying a car. He'll be looking at a car through, you know, guys that handle cars every day's eye, and he'll have a much better justification of it. And then we'll still do the shipping for him. So he doesn't have to necessarily buy the car from us. He can buy the car from anyone out there, but he'll send us to go and do an inspection. So you'll get a better understanding. And the end of the day, he'll be just dealing with one company from A to Z. So we'll manage all of that, because I reckon the biggest thing that guys have learned from buying cars in SA is scams. And then obviously the condition. A guy will very easily take a photo of a car and say, this car is perfect, until you get up right close and perfect to the car. Then it's not that perfect.
But that's happened all over. I mean, I know about horror stories with guys buying cars on the US on eBay, you know, the photos. But I even had a guy flew to the States, looked at a car, purchased the car and everything, then let the car shipped. And when the car arrived, it was a completely different car. They had another one hiding at the back. So, you know, it doesn't matter where you go in the world, that type of stuff always hangs out there. There's always that risk. But I think trust is important. Yeah, but I do think that's coming through less and less. But it also comes down from a perspective of, if it's too good to be true, there's a reason for it. Yeah,
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, you know, it's like when you sit online and you see a car and it's like, what? This guy is selling a Mustang for 50K? That's amazing. You know.
Yeah.
Put the one away and don't buy the car.
Exactly. Just take a step back and calm down. All right. This is not true.
And I think that's why it's so important for us. You know, our reputation is something that's very important, and I think that, you know, having that UK store does create a lot of comfort in that person. If he wants to buy a car, if anything goes wrong, he can go back to somebody he can actually physically see. It's not a phone call, it's not a video chat, it's somebody that he's actually can talk to. And I think that makes a big difference. You know, it gives confidence in the person. And then on top of that, we try and keep our customers up to date as much as possible. So, you know, we'll send them updated when the car gets picked up, we send a photo, and there's that continuous communication that happens to that client, and he just automatically just feels comfortable.
Now, my next question, are you guys still finding, I mean, look, we know there's, look, I live in like the George area, so we've got hidden classic collectors all over here by us, but do you guys still find that there's, you guys still find that there's that odd collector that's now starting to move content or moving cars that still popped up with cars that you guys have never seen before?
Yeah, that happens, you know. For example, I had a phone call from a guy the other day that's collecting alphas, and he's been collecting alphas for the last 10, 15, 20 years, and no one knows about him. And he phoned me up and said, look, Steph, I think I've come to the point where I'm done. You know, I'm reaching the age where it's not plausible to drive the car out 5Ks on a dirt road and call it quits, you know. So, you know, we still get those phone calls. We're very blessed. I think our marketing has been very well done, and we still get those phone calls. I think they're very far and few in between that guys don't know about collections. We still get the oddball occasions where a guy will ask us to sell his car, and then someone will recognize the car and try and go and buy it underneath. But that's where the trust factor comes in again, and you try and build that communication and trust factor with the client. Because it's not viable. If we had to buy every car that we see, you know, obviously I'd need much deeper pockets.
That's true. That's true. But no, so where are you guys going, Ned? What's the next step with your growth, and where you guys want to go with the company?
Well, look, some of it's a little bit under wraps at the moment, but we do have some big ideas. We've got some big stuff that's on the go. Unfortunately, I can't say anything much more right now. But there's always the next step, and I think that I mentioned it early on. You know, it comes in steps, and we need to make sure that we complete a step correctly and properly before we move on to the next one. And I think it's just part of structure. And I think that's where we are now. We're completing a step at the moment, and we're already planning the next one, and it's looking good. We're in the process, but unfortunately, I can't tell you just now. But next time we chat, we'll have more to talk about.
That's where the show is here. If you guys got something you need to bring out that you want to put in front of everybody, give us a call and let's come back on the show and talk to us about it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, if you look at where we started and all the different things that we've brought to to our business, you know, you could just think the next thing will be quite exciting. I mean, we started out selling projects, moving into, you know, a small little premises, then getting a showroom, then closing a showroom. And then starting to look at add-on services. So, you know, we are quite excited about what's next for Vintage Motors. The UK store was quite a big thing for us. I think we both wanted that quite badly at one point, because, you know, at some point we're going to run out of cars, and that's a very, you know, very real thing. We still sell a lot of cars locally, but I think, you know, so many cars are being exported because, you know, you offer a car here local, and a guy will just say, well, we're not prepared to pay that. You know, if you want 100 grand for that car, we're prepared to pay 10 grand. And then we try and give all South Africans, you know, everyone in this industry or not, the opportunity to buy a car here before it gets marketed overseas. And it's sad, but in the same breath, you know, it's unfortunately what this industry has come to, I think, to some degree.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, a lot of people hate cars being exported and they see it as a negative. But if you look at it just from a zoomed out perspective, number one, the cars, I think, are being looked after a lot better overseas. I think the guys want originality more overseas. I think the guys put more money behind the cars, and they focus more on getting the correct parts if they're doing a restoration, things like that. And then what I always say to clients is that, you know, one day when we colonized on Mars, are we going to say, oh, damn, that car just got exported to Mars, you know? Because the world is getting smaller. And I think ultimately we want to look after and preserve these cars. And, you know, whether it's somewhere else in the world, ultimately it's still on this planet, if that makes sense. And as long as the cars are being looked after, and as long as it's in the benefit of the car, I think it's a win-win situation for everyone.
Well, look, I agree. I just think we should get back and import as many American muscles we can from the US and stuff back to South Africa as humanly possible. But
Yeah,
like
I
you
think
that's what you guys are saying. I know for a fact that a lot of guys that, especially, I mean, you were saying about restorations and stuff. There is a few companies in South Africa that does out of this world restorations, where cars get shipped into South Africa just for restorations and then shipped back again. And our quality of builds are going up. Also keep in mind that, you know, Backdraft and Super Performance and all these cars are manufactured locally. So it doesn't mean that our guys are doing a cut job. The problem is, if like a company I work with, they've done a restoration on a E-Type Jag, which is top international quality. The car's sitting at 3 million. Now you're coming to South Africa and saying like, oh God, no, you know, that's insane. We'll never pay that. But you put that to the European market and stuff, and the guy goes, wow, look at the attention to detail. They understand, because it makes it sense for them, because restoring a car in the UK and in the US is expensive from a dollar base. If you convert it back to rands here, if you can get the same workmanship done here, it actually becomes very cheap and easy. Yeah, you can have. I think
that the issue that we've got is that it's quite a small pool of people that do that kind of quality work. And it's growing. It's definitely growing. I think people are a little bit more switched on to this, and I hope that in times to come, it's going to get more and more and more, and the level is going to really raise across the board in terms of restorations. And look, you know, you're talking about you wish more cars would be bought into South Africa. I mean, we all know that it's so expensive to import, but it's so cheap to export, and that's one of the biggest problems. And I think that if we want to look at an actual real issue, is if we could get our import tax duties, ad valorem, and all of that, if we can get that whole figure down, I think it would really boost the economy, and I think it would be for a better cause. We would get more cars coming in, cars are going out, but right now that there's such a big hurdle that we just can't seem to get past. I mean, I think they dropped it up. I think on average, we used to work on roughly about 100% of the car's value in terms of the total figure at the end. Yeah, bringing in a car. So, I mean, it gets expensive. I think now it's come down to about 80%, thanks to a few people that have kind of fought the fight. And I think that the fight, unfortunately, has been made public enough. And I think that if we could get more people involved in this fight and get a petition and take up the government from a car enthusiast sort of level, I think we would be able to potentially achieve this. Because, I mean, the idea was that if somebody imports a car, he may not buy a modern Toyota, for example. And we all know that if I'm not going to not buy a Toyota because I want to buy a Camaro or something of the sort. It's two completely different things. So if we can somehow, you know, bring that image down to somebody and say, well, this could actually be good for the economy, but we need to make this a little bit more well known, because I think that also a lot of people don't actually understand how expensive it is to actually import a car.
Well,
and I know that some of the
they should do the same. I mean, what is it? The 25-year rule on left-hand drive, right? We can't bring in anything in left-hand drive that's older or that's younger than 25 years. They should do the same thing with classic cars from imports. If the car's older than 25 years old, you can reduce the import costs, because a classic car comes in, creates actually more jobs and more money and all this type of stuff sitting here than anything else. We understand that the government sees it as cars, and they just go, no, or cars in general. And it's understandable, because they don't want you importing, you know, GTRs from Dubai, you know, the same model as that's available here, and getting gray imports and stuff. But there is clearly a big divide between classic cars and modern cars more than anything, you know.
If you look at the world spectrum, I mean, it used to be so far to drive to Joburg, but now Cape Town is just around the corner. You know, it's a flight. And the same thing for cars. It is so easy to go onto the internet and look at cars for sale all over the world, that, you know, it's right there. We just need to grab for it. And if everybody stood together, I mean, we could have a massive influence of cars coming back into this country from, from Japan, the US, the the UK, Australia. I mean, we could be buying all those cars back. I mean, there's still a lot of guys buying cars locally that want to own classic cars, that want to restore them, that want to build them, you know. And I've said this a million times, and I'll say it a million more. It's a lot better to have a classic car restored as a resto mod than it's standing in someone's yard rotting away. It doesn't always have to be original. I've seen some guys do amazing stuff where a car still looks like a factory car, but it's got a souped-up motor, and there's nothing wrong with that. The main thing is we just need to keep working at those cars. But now you get to a guy, the car standing underneath a tree, and he's like, yeah, well, I don't want to sell it. I'm going to build it someday. 10 years later, same story, and the car's just gone to shit.
My wife actually holds my hand every time you're in Cape Town. You drive down the N1 and you drive past what's her name's farm with all the classics sitting there, rusting away.
Uncle Les.
I die a little bit inside every time, bro. I actually started when I lived in Cape Town. I started taking a different route just so I didn't have to look at that. Okay.
Yeah, it's quite sad, but now Uncle Les also restores cars. You know, he restores cars, and I think he's getting, unfortunately, to that age where the number of cars is exceeding, you know, what he's still going to do.
There's a lot of guys, you know, that's
so much passion.
The same thing. When you've got like, it's like you will never build 5 Morris Minors that are sitting in your backyard. Okay.
Yeah, you're going to build one out of them. The rest is just going to sit there.
Exactly. But look, the point, or the thing I want to get to is we keep jumping and we're thinking of the UK and the US and all this type of stuff, but guys are forgetting this also knocks on just for our neighbors. I mean, the amount of cars sitting in Zim, Mozambique, going up into North Africa and that type of stuff, there's some killer classics sitting out on that side, and it's just as hard to bring those into the country as it is to bring in something from the US, you know?
And I think that, you know, South Africa is such a passionate country in terms of classic cars and cars in general. I mean, South Africans love their vehicles. It's a status symbol. It's a sense of pride, and they absolutely love it. And I think it's very similar to the Australians, that they're also very proud and they love their heritage and so on. And I think that passion could really be capitalized. And again, I'm going to come back to it. If we could just change our importation laws, you know, it would make such a big difference.
Start the petition and let's get some people on the show to still bitch about it together, and we start getting going.
Maybe it might even be worthwhile doing something on the podcast, on the show, getting a petition out, getting something out there, so we could got something. I know some of the guys that are busy fighting the fight. Maybe I can have a chat with them and seeing, listen, this is a little something that we can do as a united. Well, let's get them on the show. And let's talk to them and let's get everybody's point of views, because to me, I've looked at it over time period. It's not just the import tax on the actual car, it's import tax on classic car parts and stuff. That's just as bad. I mean, you're looking at you've got 3 times the price of a parts coming in now. So now it's killing the restoration market in South Africa because it's so expensive to bring a part into the country. And I mean, I deal with a lot of big part guys overseas, and they all turn around and they're like, it's crazy. They said, no, we want to support and we want to get everything into South Africa, but your import taxes are just so high. We can't get a price to a guy at a reasonable price because there's too much sitting on top of it, you know? Do you know how much it costs to clear a car in the UK, just in tax and duties and all of that? Do you know what it costs?
No.
There's no duties, only 5% VAT. That's it.
What?
That sounds achievable. That sounds doable. That's why so many cars are going to the UK, and that's why the UK is probably one of the biggest sort of market for classic cars because of that. It's so easy to import. It's so cheap.
Yeah. No, this is ridiculous. You're right. Let's get all these guys and let's get everyone on the show and let's start a proper bitching session.
Sounds brilliant.
Yeah, that'd be quite cool.
And if we get it across, because I agree with, look, it's you know, it's all these small things that keeps killing the industry more than anything else. And guys need to remember, the more companies we have doing restorations worldwide and all this type of stuff, the more growth and stuff we'll see on this side, the more job opportunity and the more skills development. Because the nice thing with rebuilding classic car, it's not a plug-in computer based. It's a physical hand skill. I mean, metal shaping, painting, restoration, or welding, and all this type of stuff that goes into it. It's a proper skill that you're learning, you know.
Yeah, and the sad part is that I think that part of it is that it's a bit of a dying art, because also a lot of people are restored to resell. And that can also be an issue. So you'll take a car that's maybe a good base, and then they'll end up doing a quick spray job and a quick touch-ups and a quick this and a quick that, just to get the car out on the market to try and make a buck. And that's also a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
Where you kind of want to focus on some of the companies that just spend a lot of time just putting that passion in and putting that time and effort and the real skill that it takes to restore quality to a high standard.
Exactly. Guys, listen, we're over our time already, but thank you so much for being on the show, dude. This is actually, you guys taught me a lot on this one, and you guys make a good point. So that's seriously something we need to jump on as soon as possible. Thanks for being on the show. Definitely. It was fun.
Well, again, thanks for having us, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and look after yourselves. Say that again.
Same that side.
I said, let's hope we can make some changes.
Let's definitely try and do that. Definitely. All right. Thanks, guys. All right.
Thanks, Joe. Take care, bud.
Cheers.
Bye.